Saskatchewan Roughriders with their team, you know, with the
Sorry.
you know what?
I almost vomited in my mouth when you just said that.
With their fans.
Wait a second. Are you the knuckle puck guy?
You guy like that?
I thought that's a real person. Welcome on down, everybody. It's Authentic Sports Banter. My name is Jeremy Ballantine. I just want to introduce you quickly to our three guests that we have here. That way, we've got Andrew Taylor down in the bottom corner. We got Tommy Moe, and underneath me, Launy Schwartz. Andrew Taylor, the former host of Sports Etc. We've got Tommy Moe, and Tommy is the current host of 2 on 1. It's a fantasy football podcast, and Launy Schwartz is a retired Canadian broadcaster. Myself, I have absolutely no experience, but what we're going to do is we're just going to talk about sports. We're going to jump right into it, and the first thing that we're going to talk about here is I want each one of you to let me know what position in what sport are the best athletes. So I guess we'll start with Tommy. Tommy looks like he's ready to go. Your best athletes in all sports.
Yeah, I've been talking about this one before we got started on here, just to kind of prep it a little bit. But I keep going back and forth, at least sports-wise, and not specific position yet, but sports-wise, between basketball and football. And I keep going back and forth about which one I think is a little bit better. But my justification, you know, maybe a little bit more for football is that we have a lot of guys, a lot of professional athletes that have made the jump either from basketball to football or vice versa, or at some point in their career in high school, college, they made the switch. And not just made the switch, but made the switch to a professional level and made the switch to being a professional football player to a professional basketball player, you know, or just a guy that's at that same type of level. And I don't know any other sport where guys have done that, where you have a guy that is playing basketball and then goes and just plays baseball, and or a guy that's a football player and decides to go play baseball or go play basketball, you know, and they're playing at that high level. So that's where I've kind of had my head at, thinking it's just like, you know, there's no other guys, there's no other positions in sports that where guys can just intermix between the two sports so easily and do it at such a high level and at such a pro level. I think there's other arguments for sure.
If you were to pick one position in NFL football, which position do you think is probably the best athletes of all the people in NFL football? Like I think you're leaning NFL. So which one is the best in your mind?
Yeah, for NFL, I would say I feel like the receiver position is the most translatable to other sports. We've seen Odell Beckham, you know, kick a football and play. Basically, you could play soccer at this point right now if you wanted to. Chad Ochocinco could go play soccer right now if you wanted to. So I feel like that wide receiver position is the most translatable to other positions, to other sports, that you can argue, you know, the running back or whatever could be the best position, or, you know, the best athletes on football. But I feel like that wide receiver position is such an athlete that they can go do other things. And that's where I'm kind of setting that benchmark for this question, is like best athletes, meaning like across the board. You know, that's where I'm coming from with this.
Well, we're already having a fight, Tommy, because that's what I had listed. So now I have to think of something new, and I don't like that. So we're going to move on now to Launy Schwartz. Now, Launy, what is it that if you could pick one person, one athlete in one sport, who would it be?
You know, we often in schemes of discussion like this think about team sports, the most popular sports, the ones we see on television. And I was ready to come in, and at the 0 hour, I was saved by a giant fish mutant bird. And it occurred to me, and Tommy's mentioning 2 sports, I'm gonna up you by 8. Does everybody remember the athlete who first had his face on a Wheaties box? Anybody here? First athlete on a Wheaties box? First athlete? Oh, that would be Bruce Jenner.
That's what I was going to.
Who won gold? Who 10, not 2 sports. 10 sports simultaneously that you have to train for at peak levels to compete for at the Olympics. 10. And at one point in time in America, Bruce Jenner was the most recognized athlete in America. This guy dominated. I mean, 10 sports. One of them's javelin. I mean, you can kill someone with that thing, for crying out loud, if you're not careful. You're chirping in the crowd. The guy's like, do you know how far I can throw this thing? I'm going to throw it through your heart. So, I mean, never mind the potential violence, but you have to master 10 sports in one worldwide spectacle. And that man did it. I mean, incredible athletes. Anybody who can master a decathlon, I'm sitting there going, you go do that. I'm going to watch you, maybe.
All right, so we got wide receivers, we got decathletes. Andrew, where do you stand on the best athlete sport position?
Well, I was actually going to go with decathlon as well, to be honest, because of the range of the different disciplines and just the breadth of skill that you'd have to go with. I don't know if we can double up on the same one somebody else has already used, but that's the one I was going to go with. Aside from that, if we can't double up, I'd say probably a winger in hockey. To be able to put your body through that kind of, physical exertion. I mean, not just running, not just, swinging a bat, that sort of thing, but to be skating and to really just be giving it your absolute all. I mean, if anybody out there has played ice hockey at any competitive level, you know that if you're on there for a 45-second shift, you are coming off and you are, you need a rest after that.
Okay, so we got a winger in hockey, and I guess I want to take this opportunity to say that everybody here, we have our own opinions and we have our own views on who it is that is the best. And for example, you've got Launy and Andrew both thinking that the decathletes are among the best athletes. I'm going to kind of go a little bit off the board here, and it's the first sport and the original sport that isn't running, and that is wrestling is the original sport. And I guess I have to go back to my roots, and I take the 74 kilogram wrestlers in wrestling. Now, my original thought was the NFL wide receivers, because the amount of skill that is required to do things like Odell Beckham does and Terrell Owens, you just have to look at Terrell Owens early on in his career and what he was able to do, being the first real prototypical wide receiver. He's 6'3", he's 220 pounds, he's jacked, he's a little messed up in the head because that you have to be an NFL wide receiver, and of course to be a hockey goalie, and I know Lonnie knows all that. But
I mean, we can talk about that in an entire show.
Yeah,
Jeff.
but we'll talk about that later. But I think you take a look at the 74 kilogram weight class in wrestling. First off, to win an Olympic gold medal in wrestling, there are only 16 people that get to compete. And if you want to guess how many countries in the world have a wrestling team, that's right. It's every single one of them has a wrestling program. And you've taken the 16 best guys at the middle weights. And you take a look at someone like Jordan Burroughs out of the United States, who is an Olympic gold medalist. He's a Pan American champion. His athleticism is just off the charts. And if you say to me, I'm going to take any single one of these sports, if you take a wrestler and you convert them to any single sport within 5 years, Jordan Burroughs would be at the top of that sport, unless it has to do with height. He's not going to be the best basketball player because he's only, 5'8" or 5'9". But if you take a decathlete and you put them on a wrestling mat and you say compete, they're still getting beat by high school kids with lots of experience. Here we go.
I gotta jump in there, Jeremy. And you know why? I'm going to take you to task on one thing, because in doing my research about the decathlon, you know what used to get included in the decathlon?
Used to, but isn't anymore. And nobody's trying to hit somebody in a decathlon.
Irrelevant. Oh, and by the way, you're familiar with Daniel Cormier?
Of course I am.
Of course. You know what Daniel Cormier said about hockey? He could spend 50 years trying to play hockey and he still wouldn't get it. And that's your Olympic caliber wrestler that you just
DC is not
on and on about.
DC is not Jordan Burroughs.
Years, and they're going to be able to get on blades and go 50K and compete with Connor McDavid. In no world whatsoever could he even be on the 80th line in hockey.
Yeah, right now, but you give him 5 years, I guarantee that
in 5 years, In
ability.
5 years, the closest he'll get to an NHL rink is buying a ticket and smelling the ice.
Fair
He
enough.
ain't
Tommy,
ever
you got to
gonna
back me up here. These guys are in non-contact with the
Well,
decathlon.
No, just real quick to the argument of the DC comment of spending 50 years to get, to try to perfect it. I mean, you can make the same argument about golf. You can spend your whole life trying to play golf perfectly and never get there. And that even Tiger Woods would say that. It's a lifelong commitment to try to improve. So
I just got given a guarantee you make the show in 5 years if you're an Olympic wrestler.
Okay, so here would be my question: is the athleticism shown by someone like a Jordan Burroughs in comparison to someone like a Connor McDavid? Would their athleticism transfer over to those other sports?
The athleticism is one thing. Nobody's questioning the athleticism. There's just the X factor of hockey, skating. And not just that. Like, if you're not even a goalie, Cormier tried to be a goalie. Can you imagine stick handling to the ability and speed that you need to in hockey? It's not just all about the physical prowess. You were talking about wide receivers and everything. You got to follow a route. You got to follow a route in hockey. Oh yeah, but I got a guy going 50K at me ready to kill me, like in football as well, but there's no stoppage in play. Nothing ends up finishing. You're just going, man.
But they only have 45-second shifts.
But is the argument for hockey a difference between being an all-around athlete that can play multiple sports, or is it an athlete that has trained his whole life to be really, really good at that one sport? And that's why some of these hockey players are so good at what they do, because they've been playing hockey forever. You can say the same about a lot of other sports too, but like, does it translate to other sports? Can you throw that hockey player, take him off the skates, throw him on the court and see what he's going to do, or on a grass field? Is he going to run as fast as 100% skate?
Well,
100%.
I don't know if you've ever seen the video of Wayne Gretzky versus Pele versus. Have you seen that race? Has everybody seen that race that we're talking about?
I have.
Yes.
Wayne Gretzky smoked everybody.
Over.
He destroyed
he's a great
everybody.
one though.
Yeah, and Wayne Gretzky was a bit of a hard worker.
In the 80s. Now, give me Bo Jackson, by the way. Both of you guys were talking football. You give me Bo, and that's the exception that proves everything. It's like Bo knows hockey. I'd be like, well, yeah, I'd give Bo 5 years.
Yeah.
Bo knows hockey.
So, but are you saying to me, here would be my
You're
counter?
just sitting there eating popcorn, by the way. Sorry, Jeff.
No, the only reason I'll give Andrew some time here in just a second, and maybe Andrew can answer this specific question. If you say to me, if you take every winger in hockey, if you take every NFL wide receiver, you take every decathlete, and you take every 74-kilo Olympic caliber wrestler across the board, are there going to be some, for lack of a better term, dog fuckers in there? Like, is there a dog fucker wide receiver? Is there a dog fucker? I can tell you one thing. There are absolutely zero dog fucker 74-kilo wrestlers. Zero.
Maybe not ones that qualify for the Olympics, but I mean, in the spectrum of people that participate in the sport, I mean, there's always going to be outliers on each end. You're always going to have your Wayne Gretzky's and your Michael Jordans or whatever you have, your Tom Brady's. Not a big fan of Tom Brady myself, but he's exceptional. But you're always going to have, the shitheads too. And I'd probably be more in that category myself, if I'm being honest. But yeah, you're going to have shitheads with any group. If you go far enough to either spectrum, you're going to have that.
Look, man, it's sports. We're sitting here objectively using our facts at our sidearm here, going which is best. Look, let's also level the plate. All these guys can kick our ass. That's number one.
Well,
number
not mine.
Like,
Hey, how about this? I can kick a decathlete's ass any day of the week.
I'll kick Bruce Jenner's ass right now. I'll tell you that.
You can't hit a woman.
I'm not going to enter that argument right now.
We'll take this opportunity.
Any decathlete?
Yeah, any decathlete, I could whoop their ass. Not in decathlon. I'm just in like,
okay, there. That's what I needed to hear, because I'm like,
whoa. unless I'm getting the javelin thrown by Laverne in Revenge of the Nerds, I am not able to beat them in javelin or any sport, but I can beat their butt in real life. We are moving on. With the emergence of The Last Dance, the debate has come out again, and that debate is ringing strong. Is it LeBron or is it Michael Jordan? And I ask this question to each one of you: who is it? Why is it? And is it maybe somebody who's not one of those two guys? Who is the greatest basketball player ever to play the game? We're going to start this time with Launy.
Oh, man, on the spot right away. Look, I'm going to go with the outlier. Or I wouldn't even say an outlier. I mean, out of the two names, if I'm to pick somebody that isn't named Michael or LeBron, it's got to be Lou Alcindor. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, the most points in NBA history, the unstoppable skyhook. Everybody moaned about the jam from Dr. J. And then you've got this guy coming in going, oh, I'll one-up you. And I don't even need to drive the rim to do it. I'm just going to distance you and stiff arm you and then throw a little hooky. And, oh, yeah, you can't defend it. I mean, the guy is just, if you're not named Michael or LeBron, to me, it's Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Okay, well,
but
now if you are named those two, there we go.
But between the two, I have to. You asked me about one, so I'm going to build up.
I just want to know if it's not either of them. But if it is either,
yeah, if these two never played basketball, it's Kareem. Kareem is now listed as at number 3 on the ESPN list that just came out. But out of the two that I got to pick, I don't even hesitate. It's Michael Jordan. I mean, like, just watching The Last Dance, you watch that now and you tell me LeBron's like that with his teammates. He's like, yo, buddy, you want to come out and play basketball with me? Michael's like, I'm going to invite you to a studio that I had built for me while I make a movie. So not only can I scout you and know your weaknesses when the season starts, I can humiliate you on the court and just completely devalue you as a human being. I've never seen an athlete ever at that level. His own teammates were like, look, my self-esteem is at about 0, but I know I'm going to win. And that's because of Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan didn't like Dennis Rodman. Nobody in the league liked Dennis Rodman. They recruited him because we need rebounds, not because we liked him, not because we want to have margaritas hanging out in Miami. No, it's because we want to win. And everybody wanted to win with Michael or beat Michael to do it.
All right, so we got one for Michael Jordan. Let's head over to Tommy Mo. Tommy, who do you got?
So to answer the question, between Jordan or LeBron, I'm going to pick Jordan. I grew up with Jordan, and I've heard the argument like, oh, he couldn't play in this era. LeBron could play in the other era. LeBron definitely is built to play in the 80s and the 90s. He has the build to keep up with them, but the game is nowhere near where it was in the 80s and 90s. And again, watching The Last Dance, we're reminded of that. But it was insanely physical. It was almost like a full-on contact sport. And I don't think LeBron in that era would have been as good as he is now. I think LeBron's working for this era, and he is amazing. But I don't think there's any question. And then just throw the rings. The rings alone puts him in GOAT status, and that's why Tom Brady is where he's at for football. And so if you're taking out the championships argument, which isn't fair because it should be number 1, everything about his game is so much better. And like Lonnie said, like the mentality, the aggression towards his own teammates, to push them to be the best. For me, it's not even a Jordan LeBron argument. It's a Jordan and a Kobe argument for me. Sure. Because the only other person that pushed his teammates like Jordan was Kobe, and the only other person that emulated everything about Jordan's game to the T, like how he does everything, was Kobe. And so for me, it's Jordan and then Kobe, and then make the argument for everyone else after that, in my opinion. But to answer, yeah, I'd say Jordan over LeBron. I think LeBron's great. As a Laker fan, I'm stoked to have LeBron right now. But Jordan's the GOAT. Jordan's always been the GOAT. And there's no one that's going to be like him. And the closest to be like him was Kobe.
We got 2 for Jordan. Andrew Taylor, what do you got for us?
Between those two, I've got to say Jordan, hands down. I too grew up with Jordan, so I mean there might be a little bit of bias there, but I just think that with Michael Jordan's work ethic, with his determination, just the way that I would say he attacked the sport. He didn't just play the sport, he didn't just excel, but he attacked the sport. He gave it his all. Even when he had that brief foray, I mean, we kind of touched the last topic there into, going from a basketball player to a baseball player. But Michael Jordan did give that a try, and he did play a season of AA, and a bunch of his teammates were asked, was this just kind of a stunt? What was this? And they said he was the hardest working guy there. He was giving it his all. He, hadn't played baseball for 15, 20 years. So he didn't have the kind of the skills right at that level. But AA ball, that's still professional baseball. And they said he was the hardest working person there. I haven't seen The Last Dance. But just, seeing Jordan play when I was a kid, I've got to say that there's no way that anybody would top him.
Okay, so I'm going to list off a couple stats here for Michael Jordan. 6 for 6 in championships. He was the NBA steals leader 3 times. He was a 10-time scoring champion, the 5-time MVP. He had 8 seasons of 30-plus points in a year. And I think the big difference, a lot of people talk about LeBron James and his longevity, but Michael had 3 years in college prior to coming into the NBA. So he's coming in as, and I'm not meaning this in a disrespectful tone. LeBron came in when he was 18, 19 years old, fully a man, but still a boy. In technical terms, I think all of us being the age that we are, if we see an 18-year-old kid out there, we're like, well, that's still a boy, with minor exceptions. Jordan came in as a man and was able to get him in, still very young, but just that difference, those 3 seasons that LeBron had. LeBron 3 for 9 in championships. And on our Authentic Sports Banter Facebook group, we talked about, and somebody made a real good point, that LeBron James could lead statistically 5 categories. I think he was saying scoring, blocks, steals, assists, that he could lead all of those categories if he wanted to. I think is the key fact here. The other question, and of course it's obvious that I'm Jordan. LeBron 3 for 9 in championships. You could tell that he's the biggest individual difference maker on an NBA court is LeBron James. However, Michael Jordan, completely different sport. Michael Jordan will make his teammates better by demanding excellence out of them and holding them to a higher standard. Okay, so now we have the question is, if Michael Jordan came into today's game, he's 21 years old, 22 years old, fresh out of North Carolina. He does all 3 years that he did in North Carolina, comes into the NBA. Is Michael Jordan received by his teammates the way that he could be and was received by his teammates in the 80s? Does that, in today's society, does that carry?
I think
we're celebrating it, right?
Oh. Everybody's trying. Let's go with we'll go with Tommy, and then we'll come back to you, Lonnie.
I think you'd have to check the ego a little bit for this generation of players. But I think once he has his foothold in and has earned that respect from the team, then I think, he would still be received just as well. There's still a lot of guys that are going to call a drought, not necessarily all 3 years like he did, but I think the respect would come from if he had the same type of accolades in the NCAA tournament, did so well at North Carolina. Yeah, I think he would still come in at the same. But like I said, I think I think elbowing someone in the chest nowadays might cause a fight, or someone's gonna get pissy and get mad at him on social media and tweet at him like he's an asshole or something. But I don't think I think besides that, he would translate to this generation easily. He'd probably shoot a lot more because no one's that's where the game's at now. It's just shooting. But I think he'd totally be fine.
Lonnie, what are your thoughts?
Without a doubt, he'd be fine. I mean, what you're removing are elements that would make it even easier for him to dominate. He doesn't have a guy like Lambier elbowing him in the face trying to, you know, drive the rim here. So he's got a much easier time in getting to the lane, a lot less interference. Like every interference that was there that hindered him from being even more absurdly dominant than he already was has been removed. So you remove all those elements and you see an athlete that we are seeing is almost unparalleled in terms of desire to win. And he is so aware, like he gets away with it now because he established his royalty, right? He's got, I'm Michael Jordan, so regardless, the guy got away with a Hanes commercial with a Hitler mustache. I'm Jewish sitting there, well, it's Michael Jordan. You know, like he literally a national television commercial with a Hitler mustache, and everybody, including Jewish people, are going, well, it's Michael. So, you know, so I mean, that's a while ago now, but at this point in time, again, he understands, if having watched The Last Dance, you understand that he knows the business end of things, especially how he negotiated his contract even with Nike. Like he went to his favorite shoe company, Adidas, and said, I want to be your brand. And he's like, no. Converse is like, we already got everybody else. It was going to be Wilson. I mean, can you imagine Wilson being blown up like it is now? But no, Nike was like, here's your money. It's like, okay, I've been convinced. Even though he was stubborn about it, you got a man that aware of his brand awareness then. Can you imagine now? I mean, it's just, it's a flawless argument on Michael Jordan.
He's like started the brand, right? He started like branding, you know.
He made Nike.
Yeah. Everyone's doing it now.
When I ask Andrew Taylor, all of us here on this panel, we're in our, you know, mid 30s, early 40s. I'm assuming, I'm pretty sure that's how old you are, Tommy. I know these other guys a lot more than I know.
35.
Like, yeah. Okay. So Tommy's probably the youngest of us all. I ask Andrew Taylor, is it a generational thing that all of us believe that Jordan is the best player, or is he truly the best player? Is that just because we're colored by the fact that we all grew up with Michael Jordan being that dominant guy?
You know, I'm going to be honest. I think that probably, at least subconsciously, plays into it. At least for me, you know, there's the nostalgia of seeing that, right, and the nostalgia of knowing that. I wasn't really even big into basketball when I was a kid, but I remembered, you know, when we were doing the trading cards, the hockey cards, the baseball cards. If there was basketball ones, let's get a Jordan. I traded Gretzky for a Jordan. Ugh. Right. So I think that definitely the nostalgia does have a part to play in that. But also, I mean, if you look at it objectively, you know, the work ethic, there is no question in my mind that if Jordan was playing nowadays, if he was going head to head against LeBron, he would still dominate. That's not to take away from LeBron or any of his accomplishments. He's an amazing player, but Jordan is just superior. In my view, that there is no question, and that's even trying to adjust for the generational bias, if you will.
Well, since LeBron entered the league, there's a stat about Michael Jordan that he has 0 championships, 0 scoring, 0 MVPs, 0 defensive player of the years. Jordan has been an absolute bum in the NBA since LeBron joined. LeBron has had so many. Hey, so here's what we're going to do, and kind of a format change that I'm going to slip up here. I want to get the conversation started on the people that are watching this. So what we're going to do is, on our third question, we're going to all put our opinions and just have a quick 30-second blurb about what we think our answer is. And then we want to hear the discussion and the arguments from you in the comment section. So take this opportunity to listen in to our opinions, choose who you think made the best argument in regards to just who really stated their case the best, and put in your own opinions. Maybe the 4 of us are wrong. Who knows? We're all generationally around the same age, so we could all have our opinions. So we get to our final question, and I'm going to give each of us kind of about 30 seconds, 45 seconds just to kind of spit out, and we're going to start with Andrew Taylor. I want you to talk about the best franchise in any sport. So this anywhere in the world, I want you to take into account their success, their fan base, their history. What is the number 1 franchise in the world? Andrew Taylor, I'm going to give you 30 to 45 seconds.
Montreal Canadiens. Hockey. They've got, 26 Stanley Cups or something? 24, something like that. They've got an obscene number of Stanley Cups, about the same number as World Series as the New York Yankees have. But if you look at their fan bases, New York definitely has a great fan base for the Yankees, but people bleed. They bleed that red and blue for the Habs. You know, I mean, an argument could even be made for, you know, smaller league, the CFL, the Saskatchewan Roughriders with their team, you know, with the,
Sorry.
You know what?
I almost vomited in my mouth and when you just said that.
With their fan base and their dedication. But overall, I've got to give it to the Montreal Canadiens. And I'm saying that wearing a Flames jersey, Calgary Flames jersey.
All right. We won in '89, so no big deal. We'll head down to Launy because he's wearing a Montreal Canadiens shirt, so it just makes sense to transition to him. Launy Schwartz, your number one franchise across the world.
Oh, you son of a bitches from Calgary wearing the only sweater that's ever hoisted Stanley in the form that wasn't red, white, and blue. You bastards.
We have red and white.
The fact that you're giving the greatest franchise in the history of sports their due says something. I mean, you could say it about the Yankees. They had the 80s, okay? Montreal has entered their 80s Yankees stage where we're fighting with Billy Martin all the time about who should be doing what and if a guy speaks French. But when you take out the era that we are currently in with the Montreal Canadiens and you look at the body of that franchise and in terms of worldwide appeal, cultural appeal, anywhere you go, Leaf fans can pretend. They love to think of themselves as the worldwide. No, you can go to Japan and they're like, Canadien. And they'll be like, Maple Leaf, what that? You know, it's like they don't know. But you know the Habs. The Habs are as iconic as hockey itself. And there are other reasons I can go into, but I only have so many seconds. It's, I mean, they define hockey. They're the Montreal Canadiens, for crying out loud.
So we have two for the Montreal Canadiens, and I hand it down to Tommy Moe, who's I'm definitely sure has a different opinion because being from the United States, the fact that he's heard of hockey is probably a good thing. Tommy, that is not a slag on you. It's the fact that apparently Canadians, all we talk about is hockey. I'm going to go something different, but why don't you go ahead? Best franchise in the world, across the world, guys, not just Canada.
Well, real quick, even though I am born and raised in Southern California, I did play hockey as a kid. So I do have mad respect for hockey.
Kid.
Okay,
I tell you,
he's a mighty duck.
American boy.
Totally mighty
wait a
duck
second.
fan.
Are you the knuckle puck guy?
The guy, like that.
I thought that's a real person. I know that's a real person because everything in the Mighty Ducks is based off of a real person. You know, a guy with a slap shot that can't hit the net. That's Dion Phaneuf. Come on, who's a fucking criminal? That's got to be Dion Phaneuf. Like I know he's Canadian. Like, all right, sorry. Go ahead, Tommy.
Overrated player in the NHL.
Yeah.
So from being from California, wearing the jersey that I'm wearing to be on this show, I gotta choose the Lakers. I have to choose the Los Angeles Lakers. And call me a homer, call me super biased. I don't care. That's my pick. 16 championships. They did it in Minneapolis. They moved here. They did it in LA. And they did it in LA multiple times. And they've had everyone, all the most iconic names in basketball besides a couple people. But Elgin Baylor, they have Jerry West. The actual logo of the NBA came from a Laker player. They've had Kareem, they've had Shaq. You know, it goes on and on and on. And now we have LeBron. So it's like they've just exuded excellence for such a long period of time, for such a sustained period of time. And yeah, there was the Smush Parker days in like the 2000s that we don't really talk about. But for the most part, they've been on the top consistently for the longest amount of time. And so I'm going to pick the Lakers. It's a homer pick. It's a biased pick, but it's my pick. And I'll go to bat, you know, against any franchise anywhere. Some runner-ups just real quick with my 30 seconds. Real Madrid for soccer is amazing. Boston Celtics. The Red Sox for baseball. You could argue that too, but I'll say the Yankees. There's a lot of people you could argue, and I think hockey, is somewhat out of my league, so I'll just not debate that. Leave that to you guys. Like, I'll agree. Yeah, Canadians are great.
The original set for this show had 3 Americans and me. Okay, I was going to be the only hockey guy, but here and thanks, Tommy. So we got 2 for the Montreal Canadiens and 1 for the Lakers. And I just have to do a quick adjustment. Unfortunately, I have to take this off before I say this. I love the Blue Jays. The greatest franchise in history is the New York Yankees. It is the easy way out to say anything. Like, you understand the New York Yankees, 27 World Series wins, not 24, 27. That is an average appearance in the World Series. They're 27 for 40. Average appearance in the World Series once every 2.7 seasons in MLB history. That's a win every 4 seasons. They average a win in the World Series every 4 seasons in a league with 30 teams. Now, it wasn't always 30 teams, but they're 30 teams. The second highest valuation of a franchise. So they're successful and they're busy. If you've ever been to Yankee Stadium, it is by far one of the most beautiful places a sports person can go. I would even say, being able to go to Fenway would also be in that kind of that tier, that echelon. But Yankee Stadium is beautiful. It is one of the most recognizable logos in the world. You can go to anywhere in the United States, Canada, anywhere in Western world, anywhere in the Eastern world, anywhere in like the deepest, darkest parts of Antarctica. If there was a native people that lived in our Antarctica, they would have seen the Yankees logo, be able to recognize what it is. Now, is the level that they play fair? No, because they spend way more than any other team. But they play within the system that they have. And Billy Beane can do all his things with this $30 million things and Moneyball and all that. But the Yankees will win. Everybody loves to hate them. And I think that in wrestling, in WWE wrestling, they say you've made it if everybody loves you or everybody hates you. And everybody hates the Yankees. They've got to be the most successful franchise. And I'm so glad out of 4 of us that none of us said the Cowboys, because fuck the Cowboys. I'm going to stand by right now. Okay? So now,
how could anybody with a brain really say it was the Cowboys?
Yeah,
Really?
I love there was something in the Authentic Sports Banter, and if you aren't on Authentic Sports Banter, you want to look it up on Facebook, and you want to join in. I'm sure that somebody will approve. Get in there and throw some banter out there. But if you look on there, they put I'm the best quarterback in the NFL. And it's like, no, I'm the best in my division. No, I'm the best in the NFC. No, like he's not even the best on his team. Andy Dalton might be the best quarterback on his team. So that kind of is our show. As you notice, we're a little bit uncensored, hence all the fucks and shits and things that were said. But I want to thank each one of you and just give you a chance to just very quickly talk about what you're doing there, kind of 20 seconds, then we'll wrap it up. And we're going to be having another one of these shows, hopefully in the next couple of days, maybe within a week. We'll see how I can edit it. But we'll start down with Launy Schwartz. Why don't you just give us a quick thing if anybody wants to find out more about you.
Oh, man, I'm a retired broadcaster, but here in Toronto, Ontario, where I'm just outside of it right now, I run a goalie school. I coach goaltending, hockey, to be clear, because we do have an American in the room. You could be like, oh, soccer, great. I didn't know you played that up here. I kid. No, stop the puck goaltending. I founded it a few years ago, and while we're all facing some uncertainty right now, I'm doing something I love and how stereotypically Canadian. What do you do for a living? I teach hockey. Like, you get paid for that? Yeah, I do.
So if you're in the Ontario area, just look up Launy Schwartz. And what's the company called again?
Stop the Puck Goaltending, stpgoaltending.com.
All right. Andrew Taylor, tell us a little bit about yourself and where people can find you. Name is Andrew Taylor, Calgary, Alberta, Canada, born and raised. Big Calgary Flames fan, of course. Former co-host of Sports Etc. on YouTube. We'll actually be starting up with my co-host Chris Rudd. We're going to be starting up a new sports podcast pretty soon here under a different label there. But we're going to get that going. If you want
I don't read a bunch of fart jokes or stupid stuff like that, you can follow me on social media at Red Hot Poopies on all of them, Twitter, Insta, all that. Not Snapchat though. I'm not a 15-year-old girl.
I thought that's what TikTok is for, or is that for like
that's TikTok now? That's TikTok. Yeah.
That's like the six-year-old kids. Every time something new comes out, I'm like, no, it's strange. Get off my lawn.
Yeah.
All right, Tommy Moe, probably the most successful out of all of us. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your podcast, man?
I don't know if I'd say successful. Just
I
been doing
stand
it for
by
a little
it.
bit of time. Yeah, so Tommy Moe from the 2-on-1 Fantasy Sports. I got a little bit of glare here. Let me fix. Oh, no, that's worse.
That's worse.
That's worse. There we go.
That's it. No camera for you.
2on1fantasysports.com. Check out our website. It's all about fantasy football. We've been doing a fantasy football podcast for 3 years now. You can find us on pretty much everywhere you download your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, Stitcher, wherever. But you can go to the 2on1fantasysports.com. We have the links to all of the platforms where you can download the 2-on-1 Fantasy Football Podcast. And you can also find us on Twitter at 2on1FFB. And we're also on Instagram, too, at the same handle, at 2on1FFB. Yeah, we have a weekly podcast during the football season, and then we do some off-season work as well, specializing in Dynasty, also doing some freelance writing for the Dynasty Draft Room and the Undroppables. So 2 other websites right there.
Well, and you and I are going to be involved in a different kind of fantasy dynasty league that we're going to be premiering here in about a month. We're just working out the kinks of it. Just a new format for the way the dynasty works, just to try something new. Because if we're not creating during this time, what's the point? I love the breathing there. That was perfect for me. For everybody watching, yeah, thanks. I appreciate that. I'll get one in there too. For everybody watching Authentic Sports Banter, joined by Andrew Taylor, Tommy Moe, Launy Schwartz. My name is Jeremy Ballantine. Thank you very much for watching. Leave comments in. Also, if you want to be part of the conversation, you want to be part of this show, you just mentioned on it, Authentic Sports Banter, that you want to be a part of the show. We are going to meet Chris Rudd, who is Andrew Taylor's co-host. He is going to be on the show next week, and we are going to see these guys back again. But make sure that you jump on. We don't have any social media yet, but that'll come as we go. For all of us here at Authentic Sports Banter, we wish you that you're being nice and safe. Stay away from each other during this plague, and we'll see you again next episode.